Hello there fellow proto-programmers, welcome to the second part of the game course. This is going to be an introduction to programming. The results are not going to be terribly exciting to start with, and I'm also going to have to cover quite a lot of new ideas quite quickly. If there's anything you don't understand or I don't cover clearly enough, please let me know so I can fill in any gaps in the course. Let's start by opening a project. For this project we'll be creating a console application. A console window is like an old school terminal window. Don't worry, this won't be the culmination of the games you'll be making with this course, but it's a really nice and simple place to start, understanding the principles without too many other things to confuse or distract. Okay, now I said this was simple, but it certainly doesn't look like it. Don't worry, if I've learned anything about video editing, hopefully I'll be able to highlight now the only bits that you need to worry about. Okay, so let's take a look at the code that it's generated when we made our new project. First we have a set of lines beginning with using. You don't have to worry about these too much for now, but it's just telling the program to load a bunch of libraries. This gives you access to lots of built-in functions, but we won't be worrying about that too much for now. This is followed by namespace and the name that you gave your game when you created it. This again you can ignore for now, but it allows you to partition code so you can organise it more easily if you have a very large project. Again, that won't be too important for us right now. Next up is class and the line beginning static void main. These are two other constructs that we'll be going over later. They need to be there for the code to run, but we can leave them as they are for now. Now there are some curly brackets or braces paired in the middle here after the line which begins static void main. Between these braces is where we should write our code. Traditionally when one is writing their first code, the words hello world are put on the screen, so let's try to do that. Again, don't worry too much, if the specifics of what I'm typing aren't clear at the moment, we'll get to that in a bit. Learning to program has a bit of a chicken and egg problem, where you need to grasp quite a few different concepts before you can understand what's going on. Unfortunately, you need each of these concepts for your basic program to run, so we're going to gloss over a fair few things. Don't worry, we'll be revisiting everything that's important, and you will have a comprehensive knowledge by the time that you finish this course. First of all, we have a line with console.writeLine, followed by an open bracket and then the text we want to show on the screen, in quotes, followed by a closing bracket and semicolon. This will put the hello world we mentioned earlier in our little output window. But if you run it before adding the following line, you'll have to have a sharp eye to catch the contents of the window before it disappears again. This is because when your program gets to the end, it will close, so we're going to put something in to stop that happening. The following line, console.readLine, tells your program to wait until you've typed something into the window. This means that it will hang around until you press a key. So far, all we've got is a console window with some text in it. Not hugely exciting, but let's try to do something a little more complicated. Now we're going to talk about variables. Variables, which for our usage are just named buckets that you can store a bit of information in and manipulate. This again might seem complex to start with, but if you follow along, hopefully the examples will illustrate what I mean. For now we'll talk about two different types of variables. When I said that the variables are named buckets you can store information in, some of these buckets are specific shapes that you can only store certain kinds of information in. We'll discuss two now. The first one is int, which is short for integer. This is a maths term for a whole number, so for example 278 and 1023 are valid integer numbers. Next is the string type. The string is just text. Pretty much any combinations of letters or symbols can make up a string. The only thing to note is that a string must be surrounded by quotes. That's how the computer knows that what's written between the quotes is intended to be text and not program code. Okay, so now we've declared some variables, let's do something with those variables. After our console.writeLine with hello world, let's add another. Let's do some simple maths with this one. In most programming languages, the star symbol is used for multiplication, so let's write the result of the little math problem to the window. Let's add another write line, and this time, instead of typing the text that we want to show in the console window, we're going to use that variable. Here we can use the variable name in place of the text that we previously used. One thing to note at this point, remember to have the read line at the bottom, as that is where your code will pause and you will see the results. Anything below this will not be executed until you press enter. Now let's run and see the results of our labour. You can see that we use variables as placeholders for numbers and text, and can do some basic calculations with them. Up until now we've just been using readline as a pause button, so that we can see the results of our code. But as you may suspect, that's not its only use. It is the opposite of writeline. Instead of taking text or a variable and putting it into a console window as writeline does, readline takes something from that console window that you've typed in, and can put it into variables or text in your program. First we will need a variable to hold the text that you type into the window. We'll call this result. And then we'll add a writeline to write the contents of that variable to the window. Now that we're using that readline, we'll have to add another to the bottom to pause the program at that point so we can see the results of what we've done. Now let's run that and see what happens. We've got our window, and now if I type something in and press enter, it'll write it underneath. Okay, so that was at least slightly interactive, but it's a bit of a stretch to call it a game. So we'll have to take what we've learned here and add some more steps in the next video.